For some reason, there's two people who are taking the brunt of what Matt Gaetz did. One of them is Matt Gaetz. The other is Nancy Mace. And what's amazing about this is Nancy Mace has been like on team insanity, but managed to get on there every time as like, I'm a moderate. Now, on some level, like this may be her sort of trying to, burnish those moderate bona fides because they're all terrified right now. But she's going to have to now vote for either David Duke without the baggage, his quote, not mine, or Jim Jordan, even if you ignore the insurrectionist part and all that. The guy, I don't even want to say credible. Have been on the record, on television, in court, depositions, articulated, testified to by former wrestlers when he was an assistant wrestling coach, that they went to him and said, this team doctor is sexually assaulting these college-age wrestlers. And Jim Jordan did nothing about it. Yeah. Like you would think that would be like enough. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre that they're actually thinking about this guy. But
and that founding member of the Freedom Caucus, and let me just say this, to your point that there are no real moderates in the Republican Party, she was on a live stream with frickin' Steve Bannon and Matt Gaetz to talk about her decision, and it's been reported by the New York Times that Bannon was the one pushing Gaetz behind the scenes about this. So like, Bannon's a frickin' white nationalist, and she's in bed with that guy. So this is moderate Nancy Mace doing the bidding of Steve Bannon here. But like basically, Collins confronts her with this footage from January of Nancy Mace, and it's pretty satisfying to see her get tongue-tied over it.
Caitlin, the establishment is coming after me. I've had a lot of threats about my fundraising. I'm asking people to go to my website at nancymace.org to help me to show their support, because there are folks that are coming after me tonight.
I'm glad you brought that up, because back in January when there were the marathon votes for Kevin McCarthy to get this job, he was fighting to take the gavel. This is something that you said.
Matt Gaetz is a fraud. Every time he voted against Kevin McCarthy last week, he sent out a fundraising email. What you saw last week was a constitutional process diminished by those kinds of political actions.
Of course, now here we are in October. You and Congressman Gaetz are in agreement on at least ousting McCarthy. You were on a podcast together today. You yourself have been fundraising off that vote. How do you explain that to now?
Well, I have not been fundraising off of this every step of the way. I made my decision last night. I made the decision to fundraise over the last 24 hours because of the threats that I have received over fundraising and money drying up, which is why I need help. The people.
Can you pause it for 1 sec? I'm sorry, but she's wearing like a $3,000 necklace. That's a Van Cleef thing. So I keep looking at it and just beg for money. Maybe if you're begging for money, maybe take off the Van Cleef necklace.
The decision to fundraise over the last 24 hours because of the threats that I have received over fundraising and money drying up, which is why I need help. The establishment is coming after me. I've gotten a lot of threats from different groups and different members that they will withhold fundraising no matter what. And I do need help from the people. And that was a decision that I made late last night because of everything that was going on. And it is a genuine ask. And if people want to support the effort, they can go to nancymace.org.
Well, that podcast was one that is done by Steve Bannon. Of course, you once voted to hold him in contempt of Congress, which he brought up today. Is he now advising you?
No, nobody. I mean, I have consultants, but he is not one of them. I often will make my decisions on my own volition. I don't take pressure from the outside world or outside groups generally. I'm not beholden to anyone anywhere, not in D.C. I'm only beholden to the people. And I make decisions on legislation, on votes generally on my own.
But overall, when you look at what you were saying in January, if someone looks at what you said then, what you say now, and if a critic says that you're being hypocritical of that, how do you respond to them?
I'm taking it from all sides right now.
24-hour rule.
The threats that I've been receiving over the last couple of weeks, it finally reached.
Okay. Now, the only thing I can think here is just that she's seen some internal polling that suggests that she had a relatively, I don't know, she had a relatively close primary in April. I think she got like 53% of the vote.
She's also been kind of like, yeah, right. But because of that, we've speculated on her on her softer stance on abortion than other Republicans, that she's feeling the heat.
She must be taking the heat on that. And there must be stuff. She must be looking at internal polling there showing that like some of that 45% of people who voted for another candidate. And like, that's relatively, like, that's a big split in a primary. That they're like getting a little bit, like, they're mad. And to be clear, and I want to make this point here too. This is also important to understand in the context of all this. When Nancy Pelosi was voted in last time, in 2022, I guess it was, 2020, I should say, her net approval rating was something like 63% amongst Democrats. Net approval rating. So that means that like her approval rating was like somewhere around like 80%, 80 or 82 or 83.
Yep.
And her disapproval was like 17%. Kevin McCarthy's had I think it was, I've got it right here. Hold on. Kevin McCarthy's net approval rating his approval rating was 40%. And 27% were unapproval. Oh, wait a second. Or maybe I have those even backwards.
We know, though, it was not as high as as Pelosi's approval.
Oh, no.
For sure.
Oh, his was 16% net favorable. Hers was 63%. So you had 27, 30%, like 43% favorability rating. And less than 50%. Nancy Pelosi's favorability rating was probably twice that amount with Democrats. Kevin McCarthy's 43% with Republicans. And if you're worried about your right flank, you can be guaranteed that the percentage of those people who hate Kevin McCarthy is near 100%.
And if you feel that you're in jeopardy making a splash and then getting some like cable hits out of it to put your name out there and then fundraising off of it, that also makes sense too. So you can look like you're in opposition to the establishment while also being very much so in it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see this dynamic play out because, Kevin McCarthy's hated. Mitch McConnell is hated. They hate their leadership, and part of it, was that piece that we mentioned the other day by Ettinger-Mentum.
I know you struggle with it. It's hard.
Why do people have to do that?
Yeah, I know.
Which is that really the crazy ones were Kevin McCarthy because they assumed that they could keep this sort of like they could keep these juggling both their sort of like. Only reason why they were in office, which was to cut taxes for wealthy people, and then also sort of win elections broadly as a national party while meeting the expectations of their base. And this is what they keep running into every time.